Have you ever wondered what life would really be like inside a nursing home? Not just the polished brochures or the comforting words from well-meaning family members, but the actual day-to-day reality. I'm 82 years old now, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's that some decisions look simple from the outside, but can change your life in ways you never imagined. One of my biggest regrets is moving into a nursing home. At the time, it seemed like the right thing to do. My family reassured me with promises of better care, comfort, and security. They said I would be looked after, that I wouldn't have to worry about cooking, cleaning, or managing things on my own anymore. I believed them. I believed it would be a place where I could finally relax and enjoy the later years of my life. But once I settled in, the truth was far from what I had envisioned. The sterile walls, the strict schedules, and the quiet loneliness quickly replaced the comforts and freedoms I had taken for granted in my own home. I found myself missing the little things the most, choosing what to eat, when to go for a walk, or even just sitting quietly in my favorite chair with a book. Slowly, the routines and independence that once made my life feel full and meaningful began slipping away. If you are considering a nursing home, whether for yourself or a loved one, I urge you to pause and really think it through. It might seem like the easier or safer option, but there are parts of yourself you might unknowingly leave behind once you walk through those doors. Today, I want to share with you the 6 biggest regrets I have after making that decision. Lessons I wish someone had told me earlier. These insights aren't meant to scare you, but to give you an honest perspective, so you can make a choice that truly fits your life, your needs, and your future. Stay with me because what I'm about to share could be the most important conversation you have before taking that next step. The first thing I noticed after moving into the nursing home was how quickly my independence slipped away. At home, even with my aging body and slower pace, I could decide how I wanted to spend my day. I chose when to get up, what to eat, when to take a stroll in my garden, or when to sit quietly on my porch sipping tea. These small choices gave me a sense of control over my life. But here, everything runs on a schedule. Meals are served at specific times, activities are planned for groups, and even personal care routines like bathing or medication are done when it fits into the staff's timetable, not mine. At first, I thought this might not bother me. After all, I had always lived a fairly structured life. But it's different when you're told what to do and when to do it every single day, without much room for personal preference. I couldn't decide to sleep in on a rainy morning or have a late-night snack if I felt hungry. Even things as simple as choosing when to shower or what kind of soap to use felt like they were out of my hands. I realized that I no longer had control over my own basic routines that once made me feel human. Gradually, I felt like I was no longer the person I used to be. Without the small freedoms, my days started to blur together. The loss of independence wasn't just about missing my morning walk or my favorite meal. It was about losing my autonomy, my ability to make decisions, and to feel in charge of my own life. That was one of the hardest things to come to terms with. It made me feel like I was fading into the background, like I was just another patient in a system designed for efficiency, not individuality. Looking back, I wish I had known how precious those small choices were. They aren't just conveniences. They are what give you dignity and self-respect. Losing them felt like losing a part of myself. And no one warns you about that when you first pack your bags and move in. One of the most painful things I experienced after moving into the nursing home was the slow but steady feeling of being forgotten. In the first few weeks, there were phone calls, visits, and cards from family and friends. I felt loved, remembered, and connected to the world outside these walls. But as time passed, the calls became less frequent, the visits grew shorter, and eventually, some stopped coming altogether. I began to wonder if life outside was moving on without me. My children have their own busy schedules, work, raising kids, managing their own homes. Friends from my old neighborhood either live too far away, have health issues of their own, or sadly have passed on. The silence became deafening. Holidays, once filled with laughter and big family dinners, now feel quiet and lonely. Sometimes staff members try their best to cheer us up, but it's not the same as hearing your daughter's voice or watching your grandchildren run around the house. The worst part is feeling like you're no longer part of anyone's daily life. I used to be the one who people called for advice, who hosted Sunday lunches, who babysat the grandkids. Now, weeks can pass without a personal visit, and I find myself staring at the phone, hoping it will ring. I can't count how many times I've told myself, they must just be busy. But deep down, I feel like I've become an afterthought. It's not that my family doesn't love me. I know they do. But out of sight often means out of mind. And while they continue living their lives, I sit here feeling like I've been placed on a shelf, waiting to be remembered. It's a slow ache that gnaws at you, making you feel invisible. If I could turn back time, I would have talked more openly with my family about how important those connections are, especially after moving here. A simple call or visit can make a world of difference. Feeling forgotten isn't just sad, it's isolating, and it makes every day feel heavier than the last. Before moving into the nursing home, every day had a purpose. I took pride in simple routines, tending my small garden, cooking meals for my family, volunteering at the local church. These little responsibilities gave me structure, made me feel useful, and gave me a reason to get out of bed every morning. But after settling into the nursing home, I slowly felt that purpose slipping away. Here the days blend together. Meals are scheduled, medications are handed out, and activities are planned by others. At first, I thought it would be a relief to have fewer responsibilities, but the reality is different. Without meaningful tasks to occupy my time, I started feeling like a spectator in my own life. There's a hollow feeling when you no longer contribute, when no one relies on you for guidance, help, or even companionship in the same way they used to. I noticed this especially when family members stopped asking for my advice. Back home, I was the person people came to with questions about parenting, finances, or even cooking tips. Now they rarely ask for my input. It's as if my role has quietly shifted from participant to bystander. I sit through the scheduled activities here, bingo, crafts, the occasional movie night, but it doesn't replace the deeper sense of purpose that once anchored my days. Even hobbies I used to enjoy feel different here. Painting, knitting, reading, they help pass the time, but without a real sense of responsibility or goals, they often feel like distractions more than fulfilling activities. I miss the satisfaction of completing something meaningful, whether it was making a quilt for my grandchild or organizing a fundraiser at church. The hardest part is feeling like I'm just waiting for the next meal, the next activity, the next visitor, the next day. Without purpose, time feels heavier and the days seem longer. I've come to realize that losing purpose doesn't happen overnight. It fades quietly, leaving a lingering emptiness. If I could go back, I would have sought ways to hold on to my purpose, even here. Perhaps mentoring younger people, starting a small project, or finding ways to stay connected to my community. Because without a sense of purpose, life inside these walls can start to feel like it's standing still. One of the most difficult and unexpected regrets I have is how quickly my health deteriorated after moving into the nursing home. Before coming here, I was relatively active for someone my age. I could still manage short walks around the neighborhood, prepare my own meals, and even take part in light exercise classes at the local community center. But after settling into the nursing home, it felt like my body started giving up much faster than I ever anticipated. Part of it, I believe, has to do with the change in environment. Back home, I was always on the move, tending to the garden, running errands, or simply climbing the stairs kept me physically engaged. Here, everything is designed for convenience and safety, which means I move much less. Meals are brought to us, there's no need to do household chores, and elevators replace the stairs. Slowly but surely, my muscles weakened, my stamina dropped, and simple tasks that used to feel effortless became difficult. The other factor is the mental and emotional toll. I've heard people say that when you stop using certain parts of your body or mind, they begin to fade, and I can confirm it's true. Without the sense of purpose and activity I once had, I found myself sitting for longer periods, becoming more passive, and feeling less motivated to stay active. Depression and loneliness can creep in, especially during quiet afternoons or when visiting hours end, and these feelings further sap the energy needed to maintain physical health. I also noticed more frequent visits to the in-house medical staff. I began catching colds more easily, my joints stiffened, and my balance became shaky. It's frustrating to feel like you're aging faster just because your environment encourages more rest than movement. I remember one day realizing I hadn't stepped outside for a whole week, something that never would have happened when I was living independently. The most painful part is knowing that some of this decline might have been preventable if I had been more proactive. Perhaps if I had committed to a daily exercise routine or insisted on spending more time outdoors, things would have been different. But the system here subtly makes it easy to slip into a sedentary lifestyle. If I could give advice to anyone considering a nursing home, it would be this: fight for your mobility and health. Create your own routine. Stay active and engaged in any way you can, because once physical decline starts accelerating, it becomes much harder to reverse. One of the most painful and humbling regrets I carry is how much of my privacy and dignity I've lost since moving into the nursing home. When you live independently for most of your life, you become accustomed to small freedoms, closing your own door when you wish, choosing who enters your space, or simply managing your own personal care. Here, much of that is gone, often without warning. The first time I needed assistance with something as basic as bathing, I remember feeling an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. A staff member, though kind and professional, helped me with tasks I once did on my own without a second thought. I wasn't prepared for how exposed I would feel, not just physically, but emotionally. There's a certain pride that comes with being able to take care of yourself, and losing that can be devastating. Privacy is also limited when you share common spaces with others nearly all the time. I now share a room with another resident, which means there's rarely a moment when I'm truly alone. Conversations I wish to keep private are often overheard, and moments of quiet reflection can be interrupted by routine checks or communal activities. Even something as simple as choosing when to turn off the lights or listen to my favorite music has to be negotiated. Beyond the physical intrusions, there is the quiet erosion of dignity that comes with being treated more like a patient than a person. Decisions about my daily schedule, meals, and even medical treatments are often made on my behalf, sometimes without fully consulting me. While I know the staff means well and wants to keep us safe, it's hard not to feel like you've lost control over your own life. What hurts most is the subtle ways you feel less seen as an individual. I used to be known for my sharp wit, my love of literature, and my independence. Now I feel like I'm often viewed simply as another resident who needs help. That loss of identity, the feeling of fading into the background, is something no one warned me about. To anyone considering this step, I urge you to consider how much your sense of privacy and autonomy means to you. Look for places that prioritize residents' dignity and give them choices, no matter how small, because maintaining a sense of control and respect can make all the difference in preserving your self-worth. What many people don't realize, and what I certainly didn't anticipate, is how hard it is to leave a nursing home once you're here. When I first moved in, I told myself it was temporary, that I'd stay for a while until I regained strength or until my family situation stabilized. But as time passed, I realized that leaving was far more complicated than I had imagined. First, there are the physical limitations. In the beginning, I thought I would recover quickly, but over time, my body grew accustomed to the routines here. The safety measures, the assistance available, and the lack of opportunities to stay active outside the facility have made it harder for me to regain the independence needed to return home. The longer you stay, the more difficult it becomes to envision life outside these walls. Financial constraints also play a major role. Many of us sold our homes or used our savings to afford long-term care here. Trying to arrange for outside care or finding an alternative living situation that's both affordable and supportive can feel almost impossible, especially when you no longer have the financial flexibility you once did. The thought of navigating rent, bills, and home modifications feels overwhelming, but perhaps the hardest obstacle is the subtle shift in perception, both from others and from yourself. After living here for months or years, people begin to see you as a permanent resident. Family members may assume you are safest where you are, and may be reluctant to support your desire to leave. Even staff members, though well-meaning, often discuss your future in terms of how to make your stay here more comfortable, rather than helping you plan for life beyond the nursing home. Psychologically, it becomes easy to feel trapped. I've witnessed friends who tried to leave but returned shortly after because of isolation, lack of adequate care, or sheer discouragement. That fear sits with many of us, making the prospect of leaving feel daunting. I now realize that once you settle into a place like this, the systems and circumstances around you tend to reinforce staying put. It becomes a cycle that is difficult to break. If I could do it over again, I would have thought more carefully about this decision from the start. I would encourage others to exhaust all other options and make thorough plans for both entering and, if desired, eventually leaving a nursing home. Because regaining your freedom, once you've been here too long, is no easy task. Life in a nursing home is not just a story about aging, but also a lesson in valuing freedom, connection, and purpose. From real-life experiences, I've realized that maintaining independence, staying connected with loved ones, and continuing to live with purpose are essential to safeguarding both physical and mental well-being. Don't let circumstances push you into a passive role. Take charge and plan ahead for your later years, from finances and health to social relationships, to ensure that every day holds meaning. If you're still healthy, keep moving and participate in community activities. If you still have the chance, share your hopes and hidden fears with your children and grandchildren. A nursing home might be the final option for some, but don't let it strip away your freedom and joy of living. Cherish every moment and prepare yourself for a truly active and fulfilling journey through old age.